And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Gmat Club's YouTube Debriefs. My name is Evan. For those of you who don't know me by that name, I really hope most of you do by this point. You hopefully know me by my forum name, Nightblade354. See, I even got the hand gestures down. That's how good I am. Today, we're joined by an incredible human being. He is a doctor, he is a retired major in the military, and he's getting his MBA. Folks, I don't think I've had a more complete and accomplished person on here, and that is saying a lot given some of the folks that we've had over the years. Really fast, before we jump into our conversation with Anurag, tomorrow GMAT Club on YouTube is hosting our 1 hour quiz. So please look out for that if you're interested in joining. I think that's it right there. Although I'm just a puppet here. Somebody tells me to say something, I do it. So I assume that's the link. If so, please join and please give your attention to it. With that said, we're now going to shift our focus back to Anurag. And buddy, I really appreciate you being here today. It's truly an honor. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, and then we can dive into all the fun questions I have prepared for us.
Sure, Ivan. Thanks for having me here on the show. Uh, so I'm Anurag. I'm a doctor and a retired major. I just recently retired from the Army Medical Corps of the Indian Army, and I'm headed to HEC Paris for my MBA very soon. I'm interested in. I would like to continue in the healthcare industry post MBA, of course. That would be a logical decision to make, and I strongly believe I am cut out for leadership. That's what I've been groomed for throughout my years in the military, and I believe I belong to the boardroom and. So I believe I can contribute more to people in general and to industry, the healthcare industry in particular, by being at the top of the corporate management levels than I could as a doctor and a military officer. However, I did enjoy my previous professions, and let's discuss further.
Well, much like HEC Paris, I think I'm going to agree with them and say that you do indeed belong in the boardroom. And folks, for those of you who don't know or didn't see the tag when you first joined, Anurag had a 90-point increase. Now, keep in mind, this is with the military. This is with him being already a doctor and having an MD. So that's a fairly substantial rise. And to do it with such a busy life, that's sort of what we're going to focus on here. But first, Anurag, since you're going to HEC Paris, I have to ask you a question, a trivia-based question. There's no way you know it, but I'm going to ask you anyways. What French town was Napoleon born in? A, B, C, or D?
Uh, he was born in Corsica. I don't know the town exactly.
Well, A, B, C, or D?
C.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were looking for B. You were so close.
Okay.
I hope you join us next time. I'm saying here, I'm thinking, why didn't he ask me what options A, B, C, and D were? He just went with an answer. So good for you for jumping in feet first. I love it. But with that said, I want to hear about what made you decide to take the GMAT. And what was the first thing you did after you decided to take it? Some students come to GMAT Club automatically. By the way, go GMAT Club. Love the shirt. Some students Google what the first step should be. Some students just roll the dice and they say, you know what? I'm going to pick out a test studying platform and I'm going to go through it. What was, again, the impetus for you starting your studies, and what was the first thing you did once you decided to get that ball rolling?
Uh, well, honestly speaking, I always wanted to get an MBA. I was focused on it, and about 3 years or so ago, I started looking up how to prepare for the GMAT. That's when I started doing my research. Firstly, online on the online forums, I started calling up some of my school batchmates. They were at IIMs, the Indian Institutes of Management, some of the premier management colleges in India, and honestly speaking, they were the ones who suggested me to go for an international MBA, suggesting that I had a strong profile. That's what they suggested, and probably I didn't believe it then. But after I started doing my research, definitely. That is around the same time, about say 2.5, 3 years ago, when I came across Gmat Club, your forum, and
Yes.
and instantly I really liked it because number one, it's free. And number two, you are both experts, and then it's a very welcoming kind of platform where we can have everybody on board, people who are struggling, people who have aced the GMAT, people who are applying for MBAs, people who are already in uh, alums who will be sharing their experiences. So really, I like the forum. Initially, I was thinking about GMAT only, and I began my MBA research proper a bit later. So that's about the GMAT. Uh, and yes, in my case, given that there were some constraints as well, being because I'm a military, I was a military officer, and I'm a doctor. So we often had to move to field exercises in some remote areas, maybe mountainous or high altitude areas where often we didn't have access to internet, leave alone 4G internet or Wi-Fi, etc. So that's when I realized GMAT preparation is more or less not possible without high-speed internet, and I had decided that I need to put in more time, invest more time in preparing for the GMAT. Unlike what some people had suggested, some people suggested it can be done in 2 months or maybe 3 months, maximum 6 months. I believed probably 6 months was the bare minimum, given the start stop nature of my situation. So I began GMAT preparation in earnest at around 2018 or so, and the first time I took my GMAT was around mid of 2019. I'd practiced hard. I'd done a lot of mock tests, etc. But then I didn't know a few tricks of the trade. Maybe didn't have proper guidance to some of the material, and maybe a bit of nerves, a bit of bad luck. Maybe I was definitely expecting more than 700. I ended up with 660. So that was abysmal, and I was heartbroken, to say the least.
All right.
Uh,
Lot to unpack there, which is a good thing. I'm going to pulse back a minute, but first, I want to make a couple of quick announcements. Anurag's debrief is here. I brought it up earlier. Folks, this is an agenda-free show, and what does that mean? It means that, one, I don't read debriefs. Is it out of laziness? Maybe. Is it out of the fact that I want to come in completely brain dead, so that way I am coming into this with the same view that all of you are coming in with? Because I guarantee 9 out of 10 of you didn't read the debrief. Yes. Anurag, so let's go back to 2018. You've already told me your timeline, which is you wanted to do this in 6 months. Given that, no, you already told me you got 660. Obviously, that's not the case. You were shooting for above a 700. What was the goal initially at the 6 month mark? Was it just to clear 700? Was it to get 750? What was that initial first impulsive goal that you wanted to reach?
well, I would say the first impulsive goal was say 710 or 720 at max. That was what I was targeting. I was primarily targeting European schools. I'll be honest about that. And my research initially was kind of faulty to a point. I believe that the average GMAT scores, they're still around 700, 710 for the leading European schools, HEC Paris, NCR, London Business School, etc. And I thought that would get me through because I believe now that probably because I aimed lower, I got an even lower GMAT score. So for all the aspirants who are listening to me, I would ask you to aim high. So because the real exam may or may not work out as you want it to be in the first or maybe the second instance. So you should definitely practice hard and aim high.
Resilience. We're going to get to that topic. I promise we will. By the way, someone is asking how they can get in touch with you. After the show, do you want to post your LinkedIn or your email to the comment section?
Yeah,
Or are
yeah,
you not
sure, sure.
comfortable with that?
I'm absolutely comfortable with it,
Okay.
and anybody can get in touch with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm sure everyone watching will be really, really happy to hear. Talk to me about your first 6 months. You're in the military because you're not retired yet, I believe. You're also a working medical doctor. Those first 6 months, what were you using to study and how were you studying? Were you studying in the day? Were you studying at night? Were you studying under, a table in the mess hall because that was the only peace and quiet you could get? What was that like for those first few months when you were trying to ascend to a 710, but again, hit a 660?
First 6 months, uh, I had initially joined Gmat Preparation Institute in my city, Calcutta, India. That was where I was located then. I was supposed to be located then, although, as I told you before, we often had to go outdoors for military exercises in remote areas. So, I particularly took up with the classes because there had been a gap with my practice of mathematics for quite some time, which is natural about since I am a doctor. That was probably the main reason why I had done that. And prior to the COVID pandemic, uh, I mean, there obviously existed good online GMAT prep courses and test series, etc. But there were fewer and probably of lesser quality, majority of them. While the teachers were good, I could definitely attend some of the classes. There was again a start-stop thing. In my case, I start classes. I again go off to a military exercise in a mountainous area. Again, come back during my leave. In the army, we usually take long spells of leave. I mean, it's like 20 days, 30 days at a time. It's not like you get like 5 to 6 days leave at once, then maybe one day leave again, etc. It doesn't usually happen. So in my case, whenever I was on leave, I definitely used to study. When I was in the field areas, yes, I tried my best to study. I was mainly focusing on the official GMAT preparation material, then their books and whatever notes I had taken. Uh, as I told you, I got to know about GMAT Club maybe a few months later. I wasn't aware of that platform initially at all. This was it, and yes, I had a few study partners, some other friends who were preparing for the same, and yes, so I used to keep in touch with them. So this was about the first 6 months. In hindsight, I would say I was putting in the efforts, not really in the right direction.
Well, so let's unpack that a little bit. So, how long each day were you studying, give or take, on average?
On an average, initially I was putting in about say 3 to 4 hours of study a day. Uh,
Whoa.
this was while I was working. When on during the leave spells, I was putting in more time. Actually, I was putting in say at least 5 to 6 hours a day
Well,
studying.
so let's focus
But
on the 3 to 4 when you weren't on
yeah.
leave. So,
Mhm.
how are you balancing your life? Because again, you were military. You had your job as a doctor.
Yeah.
How were you finding 3 to 4 hours a day? Was it at the crack of dawn? Was it after everyone went to bed? What were you doing to find 3 to 4 hours a day?
See, I am a morning person. I don't really believe in waking up late. Obviously, now that I'm going to B school, this is going to change. But yes, at the crack of dawn, as you mentioned, definitely. But then also, I had to find out time in between work. I mean, in my in my army office, as well as in the doctor's room. Maybe we get say 24-hour duties at times, and I mean they are not patients all the time, but given that I had special circumstances, I had to put in special efforts. Definitely, so I did put in those special efforts.
I'm going to make the very careful assumption that while you were in the operating room, you were not trying to practice your critical reading
No, no,
comprehension.
no,
Okay.
no, no, no.
I don't want this show to be the reason why you get sued, but just so we're clear. So you said you had a pretty strong understanding of mathematics, and that's to be expected. Your background in chemistry and everything else that goes along with an MD, I'm not shocked by that. What was the initial? Did you take a practice test initially to get a baseline of where you were on the quant and verbal scale?
I did take some of the practice tests by a few companies. I definitely took them, but I took most of the, I mean, the free mock test kind of thing. Those are mostly for the publicity material kind of stuff. At
Eh,
that point of time, probably I didn't know which practice test to take, and
which is very important.
yeah, it is absolutely important. So I probably wasn't getting a clear idea about the correct level of the Gmat.
Well,
I'll be
so let
honest.
me ask: the first practice test you took, what was the breakdown? Quant verbal, if you recall.
Uh, First practice test I took, I got something like 590. That's what I remember, and I got more in verbal than in quant. I don't remember the exact breakdown. At that time, I didn't know about, I mean, the GMAT timer and the difficulty of questions, etc. I had no idea.
Okay, so once you had some understanding and you weren't completely naive to the more basic nuances of the test, I assume your quant was higher than your verbal.
No, it was the other way around. My verbal was higher than the quant.
Your verbal is higher than your quant. So let me ask then, when you were studying, granted, again, you had a strong background in mathematics, where were you focusing more of your studies? Were you focusing on the quant side of things because it was weaker? Were you trying to focus on verbal because it was your stronger suit? What was that like as you were preparing 3 or 4 hours a day?
Well, initially I went about it with an open mind, trying to focus equally on both the quant and the verbal. Uh,
Okay.
but then, given that there had been a gap with my not having been in touch with using mathematics for day-to-day work, I should have been focusing more on quant in my case. It wasn't that I was weak at math. It was just that I'd been out of touch with mathematics, unlike say what consultants or engineers, architects are. I wasn't using that kind of maths every day.
I understand. That's actually what this test is designed for. It's designed to test you on things you haven't thought about in 10 years, 15 years. It's really diabolical when you think about it. But we can talk about complaints later. So you're trying to do it evenly for the first 6 months, 3 or 4 hours a day. How many questions were you doing on the quant and verbal side? Was it 20 questions quant, 20 questions verbal? Were you reviewing them after you did them? What was that process like?
Well, initially, yeah, I think I was doing more questions, maybe at least 30 of each. But then I was doing it, I mean, chapter wise or section wise, something like that. So, and that doesn't really give you an idea of the entire test holistically when you take
Okay.
single chapter or something.
Okay, so you were doing 30 and 30, but it was more compartmentalized to a specific section like geometry or
Yeah.
algebra or probability, and then critical reasoning or reading comprehension correction. Were
Kind
you
of, yeah.
reviewing those questions after you did them? Or were you just taking them? You were saying, okay, I got this right, I got this wrong. Okay, I think I understand. We're going to move on.
Uh, yeah, I wasn't reviewing the things that I got right. I was reviewing what I got wrong.
Ah,
That's a huge mistake to make.
we're going to touch on that, believe me. But one last question here before we get to your 660, which is what resources were you using to study? And when you were answering questions, were they only official questions or were you using non official questions to help supplement the OGs?
Uh, I would say mostly the official questions, but then I was also using, I mean, say test series, etc. Mostly test series from other resources as well, other companies as
And
well.
which companies were you leveraging?
Uh, I would say Princeton review. Their verbal
Mm,
material is good. Their verbal material is good. I'll still say that.
mm,
That's my opinion. Okay. I did.
I can't unfreeze my face.
Okay. I did a bit of. I did a few tests of the Manhattan review, but then probably I was doing a start and stop them. That was a big mistake to make. I wasn't really using the timer efficiently and judiciously. It's like I sit down for a test and I get Swiggy delivery. I stop it there. I take my delivery, eat, or maybe I take a loo break or get a phone call, start, stop, etc. Something gets carried over to your memory. You think over it, get a brainwave in the bathroom, come and solve it. So I think that's not the way of doing a proper practice test. Practice test has to be practiced as if for the real test. So that was a
And
mistake as well.
this is a case study in what you don't want to do as a student. And I'm so glad we're doing this session because, folks, not doing your practice test fully, you're not taking them like a real practice test, not reviewing questions, maybe using non-official questions at times, maybe studying at times where you're not at your peak efficiency, or trying to balance work life and having that pile onto you. All of these are gigantic things that students deal with, and a lot of times they get them wrong. So, Anurag, you're not in the minority, you're in the majority. I feel bad that we're having this conversation now versus a couple of years ago, but for our students
Yeah.
watching, this will be very, very helpful. Um,
Okay,
wow.
there's another point I wanted to
Sure.
mention, and I think some people watching might find it useful. So, I come from a non-traditional background. Uh, uh, so, like obviously, if you are a doctor, especially if you come from a country like India or maybe the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, etc., you'll often have to encounter this question: Why an MBA? Why MBA? Why MBA? Why MBA? uh, I believe people in the West are more sensitized to this. There's a trend of people in the UK or Europe or US doctors doing MBA. In India, my parents are also doctors, and uh, obviously, know a lot many doctors in the extended family, friends circle, professional circles, and while some people were really, really helpful, a lot many people were there to, I mean, create doubts, confusion, not for me, for my parents, for others in the family, like why is he leaving clinical medicine, why an MBA, why GMAT, stuff like that. So, and once you fail, people who are naysayers, I mean, they come at you with full strength. That was a big challenge I was facing, actually.
And by the way, I'm gonna get to that as well, which is support networks.
Yeah.
Huge. But by the way, we had our first, at least for my session, somebody from LinkedIn actually posting. It says LinkedIn user. I wish I could see their name, but that's cool. That's fun. First, a lot of firsts going on here. I love it. By the way, for Princeton, I would stay away from Princeton and from Kaplan like the plague. Oh my goodness, do I have no respect for either of those institutions, um, especially on verbal side. So, folks, those of you watching, if you want to use non-official sources for quant, go ahead. It's almost impossible to screw up a quant question because all of this the test prep companies, all they have to do is change numbers around, and they'll get a question that is identical to the OGs. Verbal, you can screw up so many different ways, and you'll get into so many bad habits that by the time you take the test, you're going to think you have the right answer, and you probably don't. So stay away from anything non-official when it comes to verbal. If there's one thing you take away from this, that should be it. But Anurag, so tell me, so now we've studied for 6 months. We haven't reviewed questions. We've led a very busy life. We take the test, we get a 660. Do you remember what your breakdown was on the 660?
Well, I won't remember that, but I had a pretty abysmal quant score. My verbal here was decent. My quant was abysmal.
Okay,
That's
so
all I remember.
we hit a 660. By the way, to our LinkedIn user who says what's an official and non-official question, if you go on GMAT Club, what we deem official is by one of the prep companies, not prep companies, but like GMAC. So they're called Official Guide or OG. Any resource that GMAC or LSAC, which is LSAT, so the law school side, or GRE, which I believe is ETS, who make those. Those are questions that they write. They cannot be wrong in any way. They're always going to be high quality. That's what we meant by official questions. So sorry for the confusion. But okay, Anurag, back to you. You took the test 660. You said your quant wasn't where it needed to be. Verbal did okay. Do you feel that 660 was representative of how you studied to that point? Or do you feel that maybe you over or underachieved? I know you were disappointed.
I would say I grossly underachieved. I was thoroughly disappointed, to say the least.
Okay, so we've underachieved. We got a 660. We've spent 6 months. You've been getting up at the crack of dawn. You're waking up before the hens and the suns do. I mean, whole 9 yards. Like, you wake the sun up when it comes above the mountain every day, sort of type of deal here. Tell me what you then did once you got your 660. Was it something along the lines of, well, this is going to galvanize me to study harder? Was it, oh my God, I'm screwed. I'm never getting an MBA. Life is over. I'm going to stick to my, abysmal life as a medical doctor in a major. I'm a failure. What was the feeling?
I would say very mixed feelings. My life as a doctor and as a military officer was not abysmal. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That was a joke, by the way. I hope you understand. That was meant to be a joke. You were incredibly accomplished before this.
Sure. No, this is for our listeners and viewers. I liked what I was doing, but I wanted to follow my passion after a certain point of time. That's why Gmat, why MBA. I'll come to it later. But yes, as I said, I was thoroughly heartbroken once I got 660. But then I was not going to give up. Definitely I wasn't. And definitely it inspired me to work harder and take more and more practice tests. I sat down with one of my teachers, whom I'm very thankful to, one of the teachers from one of the institutes I've been going, and we decided to focus on my quant. He specializes in that arena. I had discovered Gmat Club maybe a month or two prior to this, just a month or two. So I wasn't really I wasn't really well versed with Gmat Club. This time, obviously, I started looking at the nitty gritty, some of the posts, looking at the questions and their explanations, like where I was getting questions wrong. Even those questions I got right. Can it be done in a simpler manner, in a more time-saving manner, or did I get it right by fluke? So I started analysis, and yes, that was an important thing to do. We decided to give another 6 months. In my case, I decided on 6 month timelines. That was more to suit my personal constraints, rather of work constraints, not personal constraints. So that's it. I started practicing more, and I started taking more and more practice tests. Uh, uh, Also, what I did was, last time around, when I got 660, there was an issue with using the marker pen on the kind of scratch pad they give. I'd been practicing with pen or pencil and paper, which is probably easier. Something had happened, like uh, I think some of my rough calculation had got smudged in that disastrous real GMAT exam. And this time I checked out a few websites. I did buy a real proper GMAT simulation type the sketchpad, etc. And I started practicing on that. After all these efforts, I took too many tests here. I took too many mock tests from too many companies. This was, although it's good, but I focused again more on the mock test, less on the theory and the concepts. Uh, this was a part mistake, and I ended up getting a 680 this time. So I canceled this one.
So in the span of another 6 months, we've gone from 660 to 680. You took, as self-admitted, a lot of practice tests, and I want to hear all about that. You discovered the wonderful, incredible, amazing, super perfect world of GMAT Club, and I am very happy about that. And you've learned to look into some of the experts' responses and figure out if there's a better way to approach things. Had you heard of me before you came on this show? Was I one of those experts?
I didn't know anybody's name from Gmat Club, honestly speaking.
Wow, this. Do I end this right now? I mean, what's going on here? Folks, when you come on this show, you better know my name. I expect you guys to have read every critical reasoning response that I put on the forum. I expect you to have built like a shrine in my honor when you come on this program. All right, that's for next time. So tell me, how many practice tests do you take in a 6-month period?
6 months period, okay. So I must have taken at least 30 full
30.
length tests. 30.
3-0. Wait.
30. I
I don't know which
gave
way
every,
this goes on the camera, but one of these two, 3-0. 30.
it was 30, and I took every single possible test, every kind of free test, every kind of, Black Friday free test, every kind of test that was available. Some paid,
Okay.
some unpaid. That was too many.
To our users who are watching this now and in the future, practice tests are not meant to be your primary source of studying. Practice tests are meant to be two things. One, they're meant to help you build endurance and timing. The other is meant to give you a baseline and benchmark for your test scoring capabilities. This is not your typical high school or college test where you practice the same questions 50 times and then take the test and do well. This test is logic-based, and it's something you have to learn the fundamentals of, not the test of, if that makes any sense. But Jesus, 30 in 6 months. Okay. So that was 5 a month, a little more than once a week. Holy cow. Okay. Was that the primary way you were studying, or were you still doing 3 to 4 hours a day of quant verbal split studying? Or maybe now you were contributing more, well, you said you were contributing more to your quant studies based on your tutor, who you were pretty close with. Do you want to give a shout out to that platform if you felt they were helpful?
Yeah, I'm definitely to my tutor. He knows I'm here, and he's probably here doing the tests. Mukul sir, Mr. Mukul, he was my teacher. And I'm very close to him. And definitely thanks for all your help.
Awesome. Okay, so now talk to me quant verbal. What was the split like?
My quant definitely improved quite a bit. My verbal score though came down, so eventually I ended up getting just a 20-point increase, and I ended up at 680. So it was an improvement, but yet a disappointment again.
So when you were studying, how much was it? 80-20 quant verbal? Was it 100-0 quant verbal? What was that breakdown like?
uh, amount of efforts I was putting, right?
I'm sorry?
As in the amount of efforts I was putting.
Yes. So when you were studying with your tutor throughout those weeks leading up, what would you say was the breakdown of the two sections?
Maybe 70-30 quant verbal.
And folks, this is yet another lesson to be learned. This test sucks. It really does. As someone who has spent the last 5+ years with it, it sucks. It is a nightmare unto itself. And part of that is because it's a Rubik's Cube. Once Anurag understood he had to focus on quant to improve quant, and he did, he spent approximately 70% of his time studying it, verbal fell. And that's because you need to focus on both. This test is so fickle. It is unbelievable. But okay, so 70-30, quant went up, verbal fell, but you still saw an increase. We've now spent a year studying. You've spent a year waking up again way before anyone else. You've put in all this time and effort. You've got a 680, which is still below your 710 goal. What were your thoughts and feelings like at that time when you saw 680?
I was heartbroken. Honestly speaking, I was heartbroken, and this was the time again I started getting suggestions. Why are you wasting your time preparing for MBA? Why GMAT? Uh, I went to Armed Forces Medical College Pune. It is considered one of India's top medical schools, and it also ranks in the 30s globally. So you've been to India's top medical school. Why the hell are you wasting your time working on GMAT and MBA? You're faltering anyway. That's what people started saying. And however, there are a few close friends, colleagues, uh, among doctors, among other army officers, and yes, people from medical college, etc., who are very very supportive, and I'm very thankful to all of them for supporting me during that time. This was when I had to decide what I wanted to do, what I had to do rather. I knew what I wanted to do. uh, I took maybe a 7 to 10 days break from studying for GMAT entirely. At the end of it, I decided I will go in with the GMAT, and come what may, I'll score a 710 plus. That was the choice. Some people were disappointed, family, friends, etc. But I was very clear about what I wanted to do, so I stuck to that.
Well, and so let's talk about those friends and colleagues. Folks, if you're taking the test, it's never good when family pushes against you and says, stop being, no, the black sheep of the family, stop wasting your time, stop focusing on this. You need a support network to help you through some of the bad times, no matter what, whether it's friends, mentors, colleagues, anybody. Take the time to have somebody there in your corner who's going to fight and help you through it. Because if you don't, it's a very lonely and very difficult process. And Anurag, it sounds like you had that support network, even with those who were opposed. You still had that to help you through that time when you may have been doubting it and thinking, you know what, maybe I should just shift my priorities back to my current field.
Handful of people, yes, definitely, and I'm very thankful to them.
So now we've pushed through the wall with the help of friends. We have pushed through the what am I doing wall, and we're recommitting to our studies. How long did you study between your second attempt and your third attempt? What was that time period?
So this time again, it was roughly 6 odd months.
Okay.
But this 6 odd months was the most unique because of multiple reasons.
Let's
This
hear all
was
about it.
Yeah, this was the first half of 2020. So we are talking about
Wow.
COVID pandemic. I am a doctor, and I was a military officer, and I just got promoted. And as uh, as we say, with great power comes great responsibility. I was given incremental functional charges as well. I started heading a COVID task force, setting up a new military medical facility. Setting up quarantine facilities, etc. Many things started all of a sudden. So although I wanted to devote 100% time to GMAT preparation, in effect, I was able to devote barely 20% of my time now. This was beyond my control.
Yes, global pandemics
Yeah,
tend to do that.
yeah,
Anurag, I'm now completely stupefied here. I could not think of a more worse time for you to
yeah,
study
yeah.
than during, as a military doctor, during the start of a global pandemic that nobody knows how to handle. Holy cow. By the way, I don't know who this LinkedIn user is. I've never seen Evan smile like that before. I don't know. I can't see your names. I don't know if it's somebody I know or not, but if you've seen my videos, I tend to smile a lot. So I'm hoping that's a joke. But either way. So Anurag, how were you spending your days? Because you said you were studying 20% of your time. What was your average day like now that you've again put in over a year? The pandemic started. You want to study, but you also have a responsibility to. I mean, not only the people of India, but the world to try and figure out what's going on here and try and keep people safe. So how are you dealing with that? And then how are you finding the time and energy to study?
Uh, Honestly speaking, I used to have 16 to 18 hours day during this 6 month period.
Ugh.
Uh, of this 16 to 18 hours day, I believe probably 10 between 8 to 12 hours were spent on work. Obviously, it was the pandemic; we had to work harder, and even if I may not have had to work physically, I was also working as a hospital administrator at at that point of time, both as a clinician and as a hospital administrator, setting up medical facilities, etc. So I had more and more responsibilities, incremental responsibilities at that time. And of the maybe 5 to 6 hours that remain for study, you do have to give maybe 2 hours to relaxation, 1 to 2 hours to relaxation, food, chit chatting with people, coffee breaks, etc. So effectively, I was left with 3 to 4 hours of study after pushing myself, after stretching myself to the maximum during this period. But what has worked for me always since childhood, in fact, is that I perform best under pressure, and probably that worked for me here.
Well, so correct me if I'm wrong on the math. So you're working 16 to 18 hours a day. You're studying
That
3 to 4 hours a day.
no, I was working between maybe 8 to 12 hours a day,
Oh,
and
okay. I was about to say I'm hearing like 4 hours of sleep a night. Like
no, I don't compromise on my sleep. I definitely believe in 6 hours of sleep minimum. I won't advise anybody to compromise on sleep ever.
me too, man. High five.
High five.
Shouldn't have done that. I hit my camera really hard. But either way, okay. So you were again still working pretty long days. You were studying. You had some interaction with friends, but you were also getting your 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. You were dealing with the stresses of a pandemic, quarantine, everything else. What changed in your study habits between the first two times and this time?
One was that I was more focused. I
In
was
what
probably
way?
more focused because since I knew I would have maybe 2 to 4 hours a day maximum to study, so I had to give in 100% to every single minute I put. That's a very important thing. And besides, I was kind of lucky because at this point of time, I got some very realistic and genuine advice from some seniors, people with a similar background like myself, doctors who went to leading business schools, regarding preparation material, and more importantly, I started focusing on the text that is on brushing up my concepts rather than on practicing too many practice tests.
I
This was a
love it.
major thing. Yeah.
Okay, so what study materials you said you had maybe a shift in focus on that? What did you leverage this time around?
uh, Manhattan Prep. I'm talking about their textbooks. Their
Okay, you're talking about like the stack of like 8 or 10 books, right?
yeah.
Okay,
It's pretty helpful, in my
it
opinion.
is.
That was the game changer. Although I believe it's a bit harder than the actual GMAT level, but I believe it definitely helped me in my case. And also, well, I took a test series. I did some of the test series from GMAT Club as well. I started following the posts of some of your experts. Also, I uh, took a practice test series called Experts Global. I just got to know about this company during this time, and I took the test series. I found it very GMAT level like at that time.
Were they
So this
accurate?
was the uh, I would say the level was pretty good.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, and their explain I like their they had something called like 2 minute shorts or something. So like that was great for revision. You have like maybe 15 minutes to revise. You see 1 to 2 minute videos, and you learn say 15-20 concepts. That was a great thing. And also, I this time around, I think GMAT had just launched one of their GMAC had just launched an advanced textbook at that time. So I bought that. That was good. That was definitely good and helped aided me in my preparation. I took This time around, I bought all of the official Gmat mock tests. Initially, I was probably doing the two free mock tests, and I think six are available. So this time, I bought the entire set. I did that. Of course, I did the Manhattan tests with the proper timers, etc., and I did the Experts Global Test Series. However, this time the test series was spaced out, not every day. This was spaced out over these 6 months, and I gave ample time and more time to conceptual clarity. That was the difference here.
So just to recap, you focused on your fundamentals. You went back to the basics and made sure those were solid, which is what you need to do. You hear me out there? That's what you need to do. You reduced your practice tests. You made sure to figure out what prep test company spoke to you the most, and you found one that really clicked with you, and you figured out the process thereafter. You were also more refined in your studying. You were more efficient. One more thing I want to clarify here. Were you reviewing questions? Were you answering them and then going back and thoroughly reviewing them? Or were you at what point did you realize that you have to review questions in order to get the most out of them?
uh, Probably during this last attempt, the third and last attempt. This time I was thoroughly reviewing every single question, even if I got it right and in very little time, because I was trying to see what other method, maybe there's some readily available formula or some kind of shortcut or a ballparking kind of an estimate kind of thing that would lead me to the answer in a more simplistic manner or save me some time. Time is crucial in this exam. So yes, I was reviewing each and every question this time.
Okay. And folks, for those of you watching, reviewing your questions, if you don't review them, you're getting nothing out of the question. You've basically wasted it. There's a method of review called blind review. I talk about it in my critical reasoning guide on GMAT Club. To sum it up, you answer the question, you don't figure out the answer, you cover up the answer that you put like 2 or 3 or 5 hours later when you sort of forget the question, or maybe a couple of days later. You answer it again, and then you check to see what the right answer is. That way you're seeing, and by the first time is timed, the second one is untimed. And so you're figuring out, is it the pressure of being timed that's screwing you up, or is it the fundamentals that are screwing you up? That is one way to study, and it is invaluable, to say the least. If you don't go through and examine why every question and every answer choice is right or wrong, you're wasting it. So please, please, please do that. Please. So many students forget that. But Anurag, back to you here, which is you've studied better, you've prepared better, you've done everything better. You take the test. Do you get your 750?
Yep.
You got your 750. What was your quant verbal breakdown?
This time I had quant 48 and verbal 45, IR's IR 8
impressive.
and AWA 6.
All right. I want to hear about, was stress ever an issue for you in any of the 3 tests?
Maybe. Honestly speaking, maybe, because as I told you before, in my case, obviously there was pressure from peers, family, and stuff associated. In the previous 2 attempts, maybe it may have been a case of like if I fail, to achieve my goal of say 710 or whatever, if I don't go to one of the top schools I'm targeting, what would I do?
What were you going to do?
Honestly speaking, I was going to take the GMAT again.
Okay,
I wasn't going to give.
So the whole idea of, you're a man of science, the idea of you take a piece of candy, you shock yourself, you take another piece of candy, you shock yourself, eventually you understand the piece of candy is going to shock you. Apparently you weren't understanding that the GMAT was going to cause you pain and anguish. You were going to go back and do it again. But that shows your determination as well. And I'm never going to discourage anyone from taking the test. Take it 10 times. A friend of mine spent 3 years studying for this thing, and he took it, I think, 6 times. Never give in. Never give up. If you want to go to business school, if this is your dream, Don't let anything stand in your way. Time, money, resources, let nothing stand in your way of achieving it. Anurag was able to do that. So my applause to you, buddy.
A mention to my military training, to the Indian Armed Forces, and of course, all militaries around the world teach never give up, as you mentioned. And probably it was this mindset that was finally responsible for me getting my coveted 750 Gmat.
And you wept, you cried your eyes out, you shot off fireworks, you popped champagne, the whole 9 yards.
True, absolutely true.
That's the way to celebrate. Maybe. Well, wait. What am I talking about? You had access to guns. You had access to cannons. Please tell me you took a joyride in a tank and fired a couple of rounds in the air just because you could.
No, that's illegal in any military anywhere in the world.
Nobody will ever know. So you were shooting at a fighter jet or something.
No.
It was a bird. They thought it was a jet.
Went...
No? Well, so now I want to hear, you've got your fantastic score. Now what do you do? Because you've now spent a year and a half studying, you've climbed the mountain, you're at the mountain top. Now you've got to climb the mountain on top of the mountain, which is applying to business schools. So how did you narrow down your list of schools you wanted to apply to, and subsequently, how did you choose HEC Paris as a school for you?
Firstly, I was very focused on wanting to go only to the very top schools. I mean, I don't know whether it's a really great idea or not to select only a few schools, but that was my strategy.
It has pros and cons.
Yeah, that was my strategy. And more importantly, I was focusing on European business schools because no, the reason is we have all militaries have service contracts. We have military service bonds, and for me, I would have had at least 7 years of experience by the time I finished my minimum period of commission with the army. So that would have been 7 years, and for the European schools, like 5.5 to 6 years of work experience is standard, pretty much standard. And I would have been at the right age, applying at 29. I think 30 is the average age for the European schools.
What's wrong with the red, white, and blue? And I'm talking about the French red, white, and blue. I'm talking about the American red, white, and blue, the stars and stripes.
Nothing against the American schools, but somehow I wanted to go to Europe, Europe including UK, that is. So those were my coveted schools, some of the top European schools.
We'll miss you. That's all I'm going to say. You could have done better. You could come here, but I digress. Did you use a consultant to help you with your apps, your essays, to figure out how you want to approach it? No, it was all solo.
No, I didn't approach any consultant, but yes, I did my own research, and I took quite a bit of time to do my research, speaking to many people, connecting with people over LinkedIn, following multiple posts on Gmat Club and some other forums, Poets and Quants, etc. Some of the other standard and reputed forums, so watching podcasts, attending some of the webinars or video conference sessions with the business schools. That was my strategy.
So let me ask, what was it that made HEC Paris so special to you in your choice? Was it a specific program? Was it the fact that, again, European business schools tend to be a year, whereas American business schools tend to favor the 2-year model? Was there a concentration that allowed you to feel more confident? What made Paris, the snooty capital of France, the place for you? And yes, if anyone's French who thinks I'm being anti-French, I'm not. I love the French. I love all your cooking. I love the Parisian cafes and the whole 9 yards. It's just, I'm just trying to wave my American flag here. I promise I don't hate you guys. I love you guys.
Okay. HEC Paris is a highly reputed highly reputed French and European university. It is very, very famous in all across Europe, not just France. and the francophone world, probably Canada, parts of Africa, and HEC is also equally famous in the Middle East because of the executive MBA program that is located in the Doha, Qatar campus. That is also among the top ranked programs. Plus, they have highly ranked MBA, highly ranked MIM, and various other programs. And HEC is a business school, a standalone business school. In my opinion, for professional studies like be it MBA, be it medicine, I believe so. Standalone schools, standalone universities are better in this respect. Number one. Number two, a lot HEC is known as the CEO factory of the world. Plenty of CEOs all around the world are from HEC Paris, and in the medical domain, in the healthcare domain that I'm targeting, we look at CEO of AstraZeneca, the company that's been so famous because of its COVID vaccines in the recent past. That person is again. Doctor. I think he's a veterinarian doctor who is an HEC Paris alum. Did a management degree from there. Besides, there are founders and CEOs of multiple healthcare firms. Given that I'm targeting healthcare was a priority. So the number of founders, chief executive officers, people in senior positions there was a big deal for me. And Paris is a romantic city. Lastly speaking, so
Anurag, buddy, are you one of the people who's going to business school to try and find a wife? Is that the deal here?
sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I was asking if you're going to business school to find a partner, a wife.
Oh no. That the last comment was just a joke.
Just had to be sure. By the way, there are plenty of people, no judgment. I have plenty of friends who, one of them came on this show and said he was going to business school, and one of the main reasons he was doing it was because he wanted to find a wife. He was an American too. This isn't an international. This is somebody born and bred in the USA saying that I'm going to find my gal. So no judgment.
I wouldn't say no to that, but that's not the reason I'm going to HEC.
So I assume you're married or in a long-term relationship already.
No. I'm single. Happily single so far.
So go to business school and find a wife. What are you doing? The French women are awesome.
Hopefully I will.
There we go, folks. By the way, anybody watching this? So you've got a major here who's a medical doctor who's now getting his MBA. Doesn't seem like such a bad partner. Doesn't seem like such a bad guy. So I don't know. Anybody who's single of the female persuasion who wants to reach out to the major here, by all means, please stalk him. Please see if you can put a ring on that finger. But I like all your comments. Now, let me ask as a follow-up, and then we can dive into the questions of our lovely viewers who've been oh so patient with us. Do you see yourself staying in Europe post MBA, or do you see yourself going back to India? How's HEC Paris play into that?
Well, yes, likely I'll be staying back in Europe, or probably the Middle East. HEC Paris has immense opportunities in both these places. Definitely, but then there's a strong and vibrant and growing HEC Paris community in India as well, and opportunities are growing up. Healthcare is the industry that is booming all over the world, and India is the place where healthcare startups, digital health, etc., is booming, probably more than even in the Western world. And I won't be against coming back to India if I find the suitable opportunity.
How about Los Estados Unidos? Spanish. Sorry, that was Spanish for the United States.
Definitely, given a chance, yes, definitely. Why not?
Just saying, there was a little peculiarity in that you didn't mention the red, white, and blue again. I'm starting to think you're anti-American, but that's okay. That's okay. Folks, I'm now going to shift over to your questions, and then I'm going to finish up with Anurag a couple of questions to close us out. and you guys and gals can return to your Saturdays knowing that you spent an hour hopefully benefiting your GMAT studies. So let's take a look here. We did answer that. We answered that. We answered that. Here's an interesting one. This is from Concha, who is wearing an absolutely fabulous pair of sunglasses in her photo. I am envious. Concha, message me which brand that is. She says, "Hi Anurag, I hope you're doing well." So just so pleasant. How did you customize your CV for MBA admissions? How did you translate your military leadership experience for the corporate world?
Okay, so thanks for the question. This is an interesting one and a very genuine one. My advice here would be uh, for military candidates, business schools do look at you as having leadership experience, innate leadership experience, management skills, etc., and they may have a liking for you. However, what you have to be careful about, like we have some peculiar terms in the military. For example, adjutant is the word for the chief administrative officer or administrative officer of a unit. There's a position called quartermaster that is for the logistics officer, etc. So when you mention these positions, do write in brackets or do write the description alongside, because somebody from say a consulting background may not know what an adjutant in the military is, or what a quartermaster in the military is, or for that matter may not even know what commanding officer in the military is. Well, that doesn't really happen thanks to so multiple movies. People know what a commanding officer is. Yeah, but then yes, you need to write the description for the positions you are mentioning. And when you talk about customizing your CV, uh, we need to use less jargon, less of military jargon. We have some peculiar jargon in military uh, across the world that can be understood only by military people. uh, we have to lose that. When I say lose that, do not lose the essence of what we are writing, but write in simple terms for the business school admissions committees to understand.
Long way of saying don't assume people understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Conch, for your question. Narendra, this question I don't believe Anurag can answer because he's not a consultant, and frankly, neither am I for that matter. But if you are looking to change careers, as long as you have an understanding of what career you want to go into and what field, an MBA can be helpful. But just know that, I mean, there's a lot of questions to be answered before I or any consultant, which I am not one, could answer. So we have something on GMAT Club. It's a consultant forum within. I would ask them what their thoughts are. So I hope that helps. Concha asked another question, which is, congrats on getting admitted. HEC MBA questions are indeed a daunting task. Oh, I love that word. Would you please share any tips or advice on how to tackle those? Okay, so clearly Concha wants to go to HEC Paris. So, Concha, if you're still watching, I would connect with Anurag directly after this, but go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, here my plain and simple advice, not only for HEC Paris, for any other business school, uh, would be tell your story. Be yourself, tell your story. Uh, be realistic. Don't portray fake stuff. Like I mean, what people do is read up a lot of blogs, etc. You should write this, you should write that. Admissions committees love this and love to read this, love to hear that. There's no hard and fast rule. Be yourself. Tell your story, because even if suppose you bluff your way through the essays, once you get to the interview stage, you'll be grilled and you'll get caught. So don't talk about something that you have not done, that you have no experience of, that you have not at all been associated with. Tell your story. Every single story is unique. Like there was somebody talking about EdTech. I'm a doctor and military officer. There have been
Getting
people,
to them next.
yeah, like journalists, lawyers, even sports persons, even monks who have gone to business schools, and of course engineers and consultants, analysts do go to business school. So everybody has a
Even
unique
GMAT
story to
club
tell.
hierarchy go too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So be yourself. That's my only advice.
Be yourself. Arvin asked, why didn't you aim for IIM?
Uh, the answer to that would be I wanted an international experience, a truly international experience. Uh, while I have worked with international teams in a limited fashion while being in the Army Medical Corps or at Armed Forces Medical College, I mean, I haven't worked full time with them for a long period, etc. And yes, HEC Paris would definitely give me that kind of international experience. Probably you'll also get that if you go to INSEAD or London Business School, etc. All these three schools are highly reputed, and you get about 60 plus nationalities in class. And as I was just talking about, people from different work and educational backgrounds. So that is what matters. Everybody brings in a new perspective, a very different perspective. That is what matters. IIMs are the Indian Institutes of Management are awesome schools. I know quite a few alumni. I'm connected with many of them. However, the one problem with these is they are not probably truly international. Uh, it's not about academic quality. They are absolutely at par in terms of merit, in terms of quality of students, quality of teachers, etc. Probably placements in India also are awesome for them, but they don't give you a diverse experience. They don't give you an international cohort to study with, international professors to study from, and that limits your scope when you target international roles.
That is very logical. Not surprised. Now we get to the ed tech. Hi, Anurag. I'm still serving and have 13 years of experience now. What's your opinion on online class? Well, so online classes versus full-time classes for studying on your own with official prep materials or some other material, and where should I start? I mean, I can voice my opinion, but Anurag, do you want to take it first?
Uh, I would say focus on your focus on your quant part definitely, but don't lose out on the verbal part. You can your quant part is very important, but maybe you can pull up your GMAT score more by improving your verbal. Verbal is more rewarding actually. That's what I would say. And official material, yes, definitely.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I'll just add on that, not to toot GMAT Club's horn, but BB, who's the founder, who I work with, he has created an all-encompassing study guide that can go from A to Z. I would start by figuring out what prep company you want to work with. Reading reviews, understanding which have the better reviews, which don't, and then understanding where you are weaker, be it quant or verbal, and then deciding which prep company to go with. Once you've done that, a lot of things fall into place. You then learn how to study, you learn how to leverage the platform, and you can go from there. I think full-time is important. I don't think full-time classes are necessary. I think online classes, pre-recorded ones that you can do on your own as self-study are more valuable than in-person classes. And as somebody who many, many, many moons ago, long before the earth was formed, potentially looked into full-time classes in person and said, oh, I'm worried about online classes and pre-record classes. Don't be. The pre-recorded classes are fantastic. You won't go wrong. So I wish you the best of luck. This question, would you elaborate on your review process? We did skip over that a little bit. I went over blind review. Do you want to touch on it quickly?
Yeah. Okay. There's one important point I missed on while talking about this topic. That is, I did make my own notes based on what mistakes I was committing. That is most important, I believe. You can read hundreds of articles, hundreds of books on GMAT, blog posts, everything, but your own notes are your own notes. You understand them better than everybody, and make notes of important concepts and the mistakes you make, how to correct them. That is
fantastic. Is there any way to practice questions based on difficulty? Yeah, right here, Chief. I don't know how to turn. There we go, GMAT Club. You can sort questions by difficulty from sub 600, 600 to 700, and 700 above. Granted, those are strictly estimates, but go to GMAT Club. You can go to questions. They're all free, and you can sort by that. All right. This LinkedIn user says, I believe I did ask your questions. He says, Major Surinder Malik. I don't know. I don't know if you know him, but if maybe
We can connect over LinkedIn. Not over.
Okay. Awesome. Is it okay if I give the Gmail line without the AWA and IR? Raghav, I would ask a consultant about this. Schools, what the IR and AWA is it the most important thing? No. Can you get a 0 on it if you take the test? No. It's another data point, and if you show schools that you weren't willing to care about it, that can be an issue. Although that said, if you do take it online, I think they have added the IR and AWA. Schools understand if you take a test and they don't offer it. But just know that if you do take one with it, you shouldn't just give it a 0. And more importantly, I do not believe they'll dock you, but I reach out to a consultant on the forum to verify that. Akantra said she appreciates that, but they commented Sunglass, but you didn't tell me the brand. And she thanked you as well. So Akantra, you're a very nice person. Karen G, there's no minimum, especially for a military background for any schools. There are averages, and there are averages for various backgrounds. There are students who can get in with a 500 GMAT. That said, those people earn gold medals at the Olympics, or played in the NFL, or played in the MLB or the Premier League. So it's all dependent. Get the highest score you can. This LinkedIn user says, thank you very much. Appreciate the session. And Ray-Ban, it's such a shame they got bought out by Luxottica, because now their lenses scratch, and there's just... I can't. I won't. I'm so sorry, Akantra. But they look great on you. Anurag, to finish up here, quick question that I hope is quick. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about, or anything in the back of your mind, any last tips where you could sit there and say, boy, if I'd only talked about this, I feel like I could really round everything out. The floor is yours to talk about anything we did not talk about that you want to.
Yes, one last thing. I would say the GMAT, a great GMAT score probably doesn't get you into a top business school, but a bad GMAT score will definitely keep you out. And once you're done with your GMAT, you should start focusing on your MBA applications process. That's not a great GMAT score is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a story that would lead you to success.
And in that line of thinking, folks, just because you get 770 doesn't mean you're getting into Harvard. I've had plenty of friends through the forum and in my real life, because I'm a real person, I'm not a hologram. I'm not Bunel. I'm not fake. I'm not AI. I've had plenty of friends who got 770s. They did not get into Harvard or Stanford. No, they got into Wharton, or maybe they got into Kellogg, or they got it into CBS. But just because you get a top-tier score, to Anurag's point, does not mean you are guaranteed to get admissions to these programs. Your background plays a role. Your GPA plays a role. Your goals play a role. Everything you do in life plays a role in business school. And for better or worse, if you want to go to law school or med school, I know that statistics are the only things they care about, at least here in the States. Going to business school, holistic approach, guys. And I don't say that just because every other business school says it. I say it because it's true. But Anurag, you've been great. We went over by about 15 minutes, but that's okay. You were a terrific interviewee. I think I got that right. And I can't thank you enough for joining us here. Obviously, you're a busy man, a well-accomplished man, and to have such a unique story and to bring it to us here today is going to benefit a lot of students in the future and give them a lot of hope. So truly, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure being here.
To our audience who stayed, all 26 to 30 people, I'm A, impressed, but B, if you want to see me again, come join us next Saturday because I'll be hosting our next debrief. So if you want to see my smiling, laughing, kind of funny looking face, join us next weekend for more of this lunacy, shall we say. But from everybody at GMAT Club, from Evan, I'm the Prince of Darkness today. I wish all of you a fantastic weekend and hope that you got as much out of this as I did. Take care, everybody.